Make sure I'm not missing anybody.
Do you mind a couple of questions? Or?
Yeah.
So, apologies. This is going to be like really beginner stuff, but maybe that's a good thing. So maybe I don't apologize.
Yeah, no. This is what it's all about. This is what it's all about.
Right. So, my main question really is, and apologies, I don't know the exact word for it, but there was like a sign up or investor onboarding kind of informational thing. You were kind enough to gift me a token, and I'm really excited. I was telling my wife, I was bragging, I'm like, we're property owners in Australia now. I mean, we're international. It's a really cool thing, but my question is, my hesitation is, what kind of info is needed from us? You mentioned trust. I'm an accountant myself in the US, and I would imagine investing in property, you're going to need a lot of information from us. Can you give me a general overview of that?
Yeah, again, this is the beauty about the blockchain technology. So basically, with each property's token series, so each property is owned by an Australian company. That company's got a special class of shares, and each property token is actually attached to that particular class of share. So it's like an NFT, because when you think of it in terms of, and that's why I've been calling it a hybrid token, because each property token is attached to that special class of share. So 1 for 1. So there is actually 40,000 special class of shares. So with our property series, like the brick wallers, let's use the brick wallers as an example, is that that property is kept indefinitely. So basically, we will never sell that property. It's kept in that company indefinitely. There's actually no rent paid out, so that rent is actually kept within that company, and that rent's actually invested in a crypto portfolio. So each month, the net rent buys cryptocurrency. Obviously, some Raven coins, no doubt, in there. That obviously in terms of supporting the Raven coin, and obviously some of the major ones that and again, I'll be guided by the community in terms of making suggestions what we should be buying each month, as far as the cryptocurrency is concerned. And also that particular token series will have the NFTs, so there'll be a set of NFTs that's purchased by the token series. So that token series is made up of three assets, obviously the core asset being the property, 2 being the crypto portfolio, and thirdly the set of NFTs in there. Now in terms of what information we don't, because at the end of the day, there's no rent being paid out. So the ability to capitalize on your token, so you got that one token, right? And then basically there's going to be a secondary market. So at the moment you'll be able to sell, we'll open up to be able to sell between each other within the BrickBC projects platform. But DigiShares are also setting up a secondary market, and again we're looking at that, provide more liquidity to be able to provide a secondary market for it. So in terms of information, we actually once you actually register, and obviously the KYC and that ticks obviously all our compliance requirements. That's basically all you got to do. There's actually it's not like your typical direct property holding where you got to compile your rent and expenses and you got to file that in your tax return. You don't have to do that, because again, given my background, obviously dealing with tax as well, that's obviously something that's all second nature to me, knowing those spaces. And obviously there's different rules across different countries, but there's actually no requirement.
That's exactly what my concern is, or that's kind of where I'm going, I guess was my question, is what are the tax implications? Like am I handing over to you my, I don't know, a tax ID number, a social security number? Like how do you put my ownership, I guess, to America? Does it not matter? I'm a small business guy. I'm not an international tax guy.
No, there's no need, because at the end of the day, just like, so you've got some Raven coins, right? You own this crypto, you own NFTs. It's the same thing in terms of you own a property token, just like you would own an NFT. You own a property token, so you got ownership of that.
It has an intrinsic value that I do what I do with it.
Spot on. So the only time you'll have capital gains, obviously, if you sell that property token on the secondary market, obviously you'll work out your capital gain. I mean, capital gains across the world are very similar in terms of, you make your profit. Some have got different discounts. We've got some discounting systems here as far as what's assessable once you work out your profit. But at the end of the day, the only time you're going to be assessed for tax is when you actually sell that property token. Just like shares. I think for people who are actually that are new to the blockchain and cryptos, and have been involved in the traditional world in terms of shares, I think when you buy a share and then you sell that share, it's the same principle as to when you're assessed.
Right.
In regards to that.
Okay. No, thank you. I appreciate it. I was very obviously confused at that. I didn't
Yeah.
want to hand over so much information, nothing personal. It's kind of the nature of crypto. We like to be secretive a bit, but no, it's good to know. Thanks for explaining, bro. Appreciate it.
Pleasure. And I guess that's the beauty of blockchain, right? In terms of the new frontier, the global ability, and again, it's and again, we all have to pay our share of taxes. And I think this whole narrative by the anti-blockchainers, they're using that narrative about people avoiding tax, people using it for black market stuff, and again, it's again, they're people just afraid of the new frontier. And I think for us and our community is this is a new frontier that we're engaged, and this is how things are, and we'll pay our amount of taxes that we do.
Sure. Yeah, we're embracing it, I guess, right?
Yeah, 100%.
I need your help, I saw this. There.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, since you're in the US.
Absolutely. Yeah, feel free. You know my DMs and my Discords and my, you know how to get me.
10-4.
Any questions? Because I've got a few questions here that I'll chuck in if we sort of start getting a bit low on questions. And look, this is what it's all about. It's and Morgan the other day asked some really good questions that I did appreciate. And maybe I'll share some of those ones if we sort of start running out of questions before we finish. Yeah. So
I've actually got a question.
Yeah.
I've got a question from a guy that actually asked a question on Reddit. It was a question about stamp duty and reselling the tokens later on. So like sometimes in Australia you get like 3% on the sale price when you sell a property. Do you think that applies to the tokens, or is that a completely, because you're not selling the property and it's just a token, does that just completely not apply, or?
Love your question, Alex. Love your question. And again, it was obviously, given my background, I spent probably a good solid 6 months going through all the different layers of legislation, stamp duty, because obviously in Australia we've got states, and every state's got its own stamp duty legislation. So when you sell a property, you've got to pay stamp duty. Sorry, when you buy a property, again, just probably to clarify, when you buy a property, you've got to pay stamp duty. When you sell a property, you've got to pay capital gains tax. So going through the different, going through the different sets of legislation, you've got the Stamp Duty Act, and obviously we focus on Queensland, so it only applies to Queensland in terms of looking at that. We had to look obviously at capital gains, the Tax Act, how it deals with capital gains. We had to look in terms of the foreign ownership rules, in terms of how it deals with that. And again, given how I've structured the whole token series, is making sure it ticked all those boxes. So because there's actually no change in ownership, as it would be as a normal property transaction, there's actually no stamp duty. Only because how I've structured things, that there's actually no change in ownership as far as that the property is concerned. Yeah. And again, this is using obviously 25 years worth of experience to know the things that are second nature to you, and making sure you're ticking through all those boxes. And then also obviously blockchain, the blockchain rules. So obviously then bouncing around with Claude, Klaus from DigiShares, making sure that there was no breaches from their perspective. So working through them with their legals behind, and making sure, looking at from the blockchain perspective, the rules and so forth, making sure there was no issues. And that's why you guys are probably, I keep referring to as a hybrid token, only because it's got the features of an NFT in terms of how each token is attached to each share. So it's unique to the token. So it's not just a bunch of shares, you've got a bunch of tokens, and basically just like cryptos, there's no identifiable to each one. There's actually, it's got this nature of being an NFT, non-fungible, and but obviously the beauty about of all the other elements that of NFTs, cryptos, and so forth. So again, So to answer your question, there's no stamp duty.
Awesome, thank you.
I have another question.
Yeah.
I did not sign up with your website yet, so I was doing this right now as we speak.
Yep.
And now I come across with the Know Your Customer thing. But can you tell us why you chose to take that information for yourself instead of using another platform for know your customer, because there are some companies who do this for you and still can tell you from, hey, I checked this ID or password, it's a real person. But instead of giving us our information directly to you, if you know what I mean.
So I missed the question, Morgan. So if you can just ask.
Why did you choose to do your know your own customer check instead of hiring a professional company for that?
So DigiShares actually do that for us. So DigiShares at the moment, we've actually got a platform that we're going to be using that they've suggested. But at the moment, actually DigiShares do that for us as far as KYC. Obviously they're maintaining our platform, so they're looking after all things as far as the platform is concerned. At the moment, it's manageable, but obviously once the numbers start increasing, we've actually already signed up for another a company that can deal with volumes of to do the KYC. Yeah. But at the moment, at the moment, I'm happy with.
Our information is not put on your personal database or anything?
No,
it's safe with someone else, or?
Yeah, so basically, as I said, DigiShares maintain our platform, so they, on the actual database, DigiShares database that's maintained there. So I've got nothing on my computer as far as the database is concerned, so it sits on that database that they maintain for us. And again, as I said, for us it was important to engage with a global leader in property tokenisation as far as knowing all things in terms of also the security that goes with it, with people's information. So obviously, look, some people have got a problem doing KYC, but for us, that's critical in terms of who we are and what we're doing. And if that's not for some people, that's okay, because at the end of the day, we're not going to compromise our compliance. For us, that's critical to have the KYC done. And again, if people have an issue, that's okay. Look, if it's not for you, that's okay, because at the end of the day, for us as a collective, in terms of what we're trying to do and having and having that compliance ticked off as far as KYC is concerned, it's critical to have that. But yeah, no, it's not on my laptop.
Not a problem, but I was just checking where my information is going.
Yeah, as I said, no, it's so DigiShares maintain all that, so it doesn't sit on my laptop.
Yeah, but you never know, right?
Yeah, of course. That's a really good question. That's a really good question, Morgan. I mean, that's from a person's information security. That's critical, because obviously got personal things in there. But yeah, no, it's you can rest assured that's kept by one of the best in the world, DigiShares, in terms of maintaining that database.
Yeah, thank you.
Fantastic.
It's actually really good from my point of view, just to see that DigiShares are taking custody of that private information. Just because as the EU company under GDPR, it's like the private public, basically privacy for the citizens of the EU. So by them complying with GDPR, they basically protect us, because if they don't do it properly, there's an unlimited fine that can get put on them. So that's quite a protection that it's actually in the EU.
Yeah, it was critical to have them on board, because obviously they know all the rules. They've got their internal legal team and so forth. So, and they're not just doing stuff in Europe, as you guys know. They've also got their team in the US as well. So they've got an office over there in the US. So again, they continue to develop and expand and so forth. And so to have them on board, for us, we would never do this without a company like DigiShares, because again, I'm not an IT person, it's a matter of making sure we always work with the best of breed in the different areas. Had so I'll just chuck a question in there. I've got a question here from Nosol. It's got in terms of what happens if the property has a fire and total loss, what would happen to the tokens? Good question, Nosol. So basically, each property token series is owned by a unique Australian property. So basically, that obviously the property within that company will be obviously insured. So we'll have insurances in place for all properties that we tokenise. So that property will be just like a normal property that you would invest in. You take out the insurance against loss if there's a fire. Insurance company then basically pays out the funds to that token, to that company that owns the property. So as far as there's no impact on the token side of things, it just means obviously we'd have to build that property again, that's in that company. So again, that's again just thinking in terms of if you had an investment property and you pay your insurance, that property burned down, well, you get insurance funds, you build again, so nothing changes as far as your ownership in that property. So the same principles apply here to the tokenised property. Yeah. So I hope that sort of answers the question, Nosal.
I've also got a question, please.
Yeah.
Obviously, we just had a death in the family, so it makes you sort of evaluate things. But just in the case of, say, if anything, not say it's going to, but if anything happens to you, is there someone to sort of take over and carry on with those properties, or is there sort of a route or something in place to carry those on? Obviously, for tokens that we hold and things as well.
Yeah, so succession planning is critical. Again, when I obviously plan businesses out, obviously having succession planning in place is critical, making sure if something happens, there's a plan in place. So we've dealt with that in terms of what the plan is. And I like to think that as we go forward and the community gets bigger, that we'll also be able to people to step up and get involved at that level, to have that continuity. So again, because we call them the brick family, we like to think that as we go along and the brick family gets bigger, we've got to be able that people can step up. People like, especially people who actually have got a very good grasp on of all aspects. Like for example, with SOS in terms of being an accountant, obviously you've got a grasp on all things. So I like to think that as we go along and the brick family gets bigger, we've got people that can actually step up and get involved at various levels, and that's one level in terms of making sure there's continuity. If something happens to me or happens to my co-founder, that there's continuity in going forward. Again, that's with any company, with any business, is making sure that there is a plan in place, there's continuity regardless of what happens with the people who are driving it, especially the people at the helm, make sure there's continuity in going forward. So that sort of stuff in terms of planning out, that for me is it's second nature. But as I said, it's making sure that I like to think that we can actually have somebody from the brick family community to get involved, as opposed to somebody from the outside that's got no idea about what the business is, what property tokenisation is, and so forth. Yeah. So I hope that sort of explains in terms of what the plan is.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Actually, I had a question the other day from somebody. I think I might have shared with some of you one of my spaces. They were asking me in terms of, okay, well, that you're not going to borrow money. You're missing out on all the tax deductions if you're not borrowing money to do the property, to fund the property. And again, this is why we're doing what we're doing. It's not to involve banks. This is the challenge, the clunky systems, the financial systems that are in place that continue to put up massive barriers for people to actually buy properties in terms of and the length of the process it takes to buy properties, all the stuff they need. We all, I'm sure we've all been through it over the years. So I guess this is what it's all about. It's basically not to get banks involved, not to get financiers involved. This is basically a property that's owned by the people, and we're not accountable to anybody as far as debt is concerned. There is no debt. We hold your right, and sometimes people get so caught up in terms of the tax deductions, and obviously across different countries there's obviously different forms in terms of what benefits you get from tax. But at the end of the day, for me over the years, obviously tax deductions are good, but at the end of the day, it's got to be about the property, the quality of the property that comes first. Because what's the point of having all these tax deductions on this property that's a lemon? You've basically had this property for 10 years. You get all these tax deductions for 10 years, and it comes to sell, it's worth the same amount as it was 10 years ago. I just don't get that. So for me, it's always about the property. What the quality of the property comes first, and if there's tax deductions, fantastic. That's a secondary consideration. But yeah, so again, we're not involved in getting debt in these properties. So there's that's the obviously the whole objective of the model is not to borrow money for the properties. But yeah, so I thought just clarify that in terms of there is no debt involved with properties. And probably just to add to that, there was also another suggestion, or it was more of a question than a suggestion, in terms of it'd be good for us to get some whales involved. And I'll be honest with you, I would rather focus, and again, this is why we started doing this, as the whole purpose is actually providing access to anybody, any individual, any family that's trying to get into property, to actually have access to property. And for us, that continues to be our primary drive, is actually about individuals, young people that are trying to get into property, families that are trying to add property to their portfolio and give them the challenges. So for me, it keeps to be about, we're not a corporate, we're a family boutique business. And for us, we like to think that we engage with other families and coming on a journey with us. So for us, that continues to be a prime driver in terms of providing that access to properties, as opposed to some of the other models I've seen out there where they're so driven by bringing managed funds corporate to buy their 20,000 tokens and whatever. And I think in my view, you're getting back to that whole. You guys can go out and buy. There's so many property funds out there. You can go out and buy units of the property funds across the world. Fantastic, different rules and so forth. But at the end of the day, you're dealing with a corporate, and how much of an input, how much thing have you got in guiding that? And so for us, is making sure that we have this personal touch with everybody that comes on the journey with us, and continue that, and providing input, providing in terms of how can we improve ourselves, and that's how great communities evolve is by listening and getting people involved and be personal, and that continues to be my mindset and my co-founder's mindset, is actually engaging with people at a personal level to come on a journey. So when I look in the eye, I'm looking through my avatar in the eye, and I like to say we can do some Zoom sessions as we go along, and provide some live videos as we go along. That I can look in the eye and can tell actually what's happening, and build that trust with you guys as we get on the journey. I know some of you are already on the journey already as Brick Wild Token holders, but again, it's a matter of just engaging people at a personal level. And for me, it's always been, when I deal with people over the years, it's always at a personal level, making sure that there's a care factor, how you engage with people, and making sure that we're on the journey, we're supporting each other, sharing knowledge, and I like to think that as you guys are on the journey, some of you are on the journey already, that you continue to build your knowledge around different areas, around different world, property, about private tokenization and whatever. So that's also the benefits that comes from being part of our journey. Any questions?
Rick, I also have a few questions. It's actually a double-pointed question, if it can help.
Yeah.
Obviously, the one thing is cool. Obviously you purchase the token, and then obviously from the token point of view, from the website, those tokens get allocated for your account after you've submitted all the details that you require and all that stuff. But let's say, for example, the property price goes up and all that stuff, and obviously people that bought the tokens decide, okay, cool, they're going to go sell it off. Is there a process in which they need to follow to sell it off? Because obviously, once I've bought the token, it's allocated to my name on the account, and even if I just sell the NFT off, it only bears value to the person that buys it once they've listed it and it actually approves the token exchange to Brexit itself, and says, cool, I bought these tokens, I now need those tokens allocated to my name, for example.
Yeah.
That's the one question. And the other thing, I think you have answered this before, but I think I was running around chasing my dog. But I actually wanted to find out, with regards to, obviously from an investor point of view, I mean, if I go, for example, and I say, cool, I've got 20,000 USD to pop into this, you know, and you know, move it forward. How would I benefit from it with regards to investments or returns and all that stuff? I just need to have a bit of better understanding with regards to that.
Yeah. Probably the first question. So basically, in the beginning, you'll be able to sell the properties amongst other brick token holders. So that's the initial phase. There'll be a secondary market within our brick tokens platform. So basically, you say, oh well, you know, you can go to Sunny and say, Sunny, I'm putting this up for sale. You know, obviously paid $80 for it at the moment, and just say in 6 months' time, 12 months' time, say it's now $100 per token. You can say to Sunny, well, here's the token. You want to buy my token, or you put up for sale. Someone comes in, I want to buy more Brick Wild tokens, and that can actually, so you can put up your token for sale on the platform, and then people can come in and actually buy, or you can negotiate between each other. The value in terms of returns. In the documents on the website and obviously on the tokens platform, I've got the financial information as to what rent is being generated for that property, because it's actually currently rented at the moment, and basically the rent and less expenses gives you the net return each year and each month, because obviously using that rent to invest in cryptocurrency. But basically what happens each year we coming back probably to cover the second part of the question. Each year we actually put a set of financial statements for that company that's got the property. So you'll have a profit and loss and balance sheet, and it'll show in terms of what the market value is of property. So we each year we obtain a market valuation from an independent valuer. So we actually pay to get a professional value of valuing the property. So you get that transparency, make sure it's somebody that's a professional in the area, or valuations in terms of what's happening with property values. So in that balance sheet, you'll have in terms of what the property value is, you'll have in terms of what the crypto portfolio is, and obviously the NFTs. I mean, the NFTs will be challenging trying to establish what the value is, unless obviously something similar that's been sold that we can put an allocation, but otherwise just be cost. Until we know for sure that NFT is valued at X as opposed to Y as the cost amount, then obviously it'll be reflected in the balance sheet for that particular NFT piece. So I guess in terms of where the value comes from, is in terms of the total value of the token, is obviously driven by those three classes of assets: the core assets being the property, the crypto portfolio, and the NFTs. Basically divide that by 40,000 tokens, and it gives you the value per token. So we've actually on the website in the where the property is, so for Brick Wall in the residential properties of the website, we've got a valuation box, and in that valuation box it's got the property value, it's got the crypto portfolio value, and it's got the NFTs that forms part of that series to give you the total value. So I've just put it there just to show you as we go along, we can actually keep that updated. But obviously the property value is only done every 12 months. The crypto, obviously, we can update each month to see to show what the portfolio value is of the crypto portfolio. And the NFTs, obviously, at worst case, we'll just see at cost until we show them, or that's valued more than cost, then basically we'll keep that at cost. So people can actually see what the total value of that token series is, and basically divide it by 40,000 for the Bitcoin series, and that gives you where the value of your token sits. Yeah. Does that sort of answer your question, Colin?
Yeah, it actually does answer the question. Like I said, I had a few people look over the contract and stuff, and they got back to me with regards to a few things, and I would love to chat with you with regards to that. Obviously on DM or whatever the case be.
Yeah.
But yeah, from a valuable perspective, it makes sense. So I'm 100% cool with that. Thanks so much.
No, pleasure. Just on that sell-offer agreement, we try to keep that very sort of bland as far as the language is concerned. Sometimes with all the legal jargon and so forth, sometimes it gets too much. So we try to have a sort of a blend of that normal English, but obviously still keep within obviously the legals that's required in there, and hopefully that was articulated in terms of the sell-offer agreement when people sign. Again, just keep it very, very, very simple to read in simple language, and hopefully that sort of came across. And again, over the years, you sort of, I read a lot of legal documents and obviously stuff that's important in terms of contracts and so forth. And it's always frustrating, some of the agreements that lawyers draft up, and you think, it'd be nice to have some things in simpler language so you can actually understand. And mind you, I'm used to it over the years, but for basically the person on the street to be able to look at a document, be able to read and get an understanding. And obviously you've got to see lawyers and some of the legal documents that are out there. But as a first glance, I think it's always nice to get an understanding first go with simple language, and I hope that sort of came across. That's easy to read. And again, look forward to your feedback. We think that we should make it more even simpler, so I can go back to our lawyer and say, well, we need to actually make that even more simpler, but still keeping obviously with the legalities of things.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. That's 100%. Like I said, obviously when it comes to anything that's law, whatever, there's normally one or two words that can change everything. So that's why I do send it off, for people to have a look at, and obviously provide feedback in a basic language that I do understand. So did that and all those stuff. So yeah,
fantastic. And again, like it's just like with because the property is owned by a company, Australian company, it's a limited liability company. So all risks, any liability lies within the company. So the shareholders, token holders aren't exposed in any way, shape, or form. So there's no exposure there as far as risk concerned. And again, it's this is the beauty about in terms of the having my understanding of having structured, and for us, for our clients over the years, being an accountant, what things should be in place as far as structure is concerned, as far as dealing with liability, as far as dealing with taxes and what have you. So again, that vehicle that we got is basically giving people protection, but there's no exposure. So I hope you've sort of been able to answer your questions and provide a bit of an overview in terms of what we're doing and some of the elements around it, and sort of clarify the area in terms of how the brick tokens sit within the playing in terms of with the NFT side of things. So I hope that sort of clarifies. I know there was a bit of confusion from somewhere they mentioned. I hope that makes that clear. So as I said, the NFTs continues to be something that we hopefully make our small contribution towards those two causes in going forward, and hopefully the community gets behind us in supporting those two causes. But I think if there's no more questions, we'll go to some of the artists that we've supported, and they've been fantastic in terms of supporting us as well. But I'll bring up LSJ up first to talk about the Birds of a Feather project that they've been working on, and they've got them out there. So LSJ, do you want to just give us a bit of an overview and what things are happening in your space?
I don't have to stand in the middle, do I?
No, it's all good. It's all good. We can see it. We can see it.
I was getting worried there. Birds of a Feather is a collection that we've made on Ravencoin, and it's on for sale at the moment for most pieces on the Ravenist, and it's a collection that are all ravens. So they are pixelated ravens, where they are all actually, they all look similar, and it's kind of intentional because they're there to represent people, and people generally look the same. And I know some people might find it like annoying, but people are generally the same. But when you look closer, you start to notice the details and differentiate between them. So then it is the collection. It's a generative collection, means that there's obviously small differences between different pieces, but some of the traits or the differences that are worth checking out are the signs at the top of each piece, and they are just words. So I call them words of power, but they're words that can just words that I would like to encourage in the Ravencoin community, and the things that I've seen in the Ravencoin community, and things that I just like to be more of. If you've got a bit of biblical knowledge, you'll recognize some of them, because some of the words are actually what are known in the Bible as the fruitages of the Spirit. So the positive qualities, so it's like love, joy, peace, goodness, kindness, and there's a few others there that are in the Bible that I couldn't quite fit in because they are just ridiculously long. but I did my best. But there's also a few other things. So like with you look at the genetic, you've got a side profile of a raven. So one eye's looking at you, and the other one's focused on the word of power, time. Some people, obviously it's different for everyone, so some people are focused on positive qualities, but other people are focused on different things that are valuable to them. So there's a few different things that I've seen in the Raven community that people value, some characteristics, some words like full mode. That's one of the words power, because it's something that helps to strengthen the Ravencoin network. Other things that are a bit rarer, so like two of the most legendary words are verified and truth, because they're so important to stop arguments and to build trust between people. So that's kind of a brief overview of what I was trying to do and create with the collection. So it's just for people to go and have a look and see what they like, see what speaks to them. And there is a rarity collection and trade. And go look at the rarity stuff if you like. But personally, I prefer people to just see what they like and what they can focus on, because that's what it's all about. So. Yeah, thank you very much, Rick, for letting me talk a little bit.
That's great, Alistair. I appreciate that. Yeah, we've when I went through your collection and I went through the whole lot, and just the things that sort of resonate with us as a family. So we picked out a few that resonated with us as a family. So that was fantastic. That's great. Alistair has been kind enough to donate as a gift the goodness, road number 41, which is titled Goodness. So I'll mention that at the end with all the gifts, but I appreciate that. Alistair, thank you so much.
No worries. Look forward to giving it away. This community is awesome, so thank you.
Kumin, want to bring up Kumin to speak about his art and tell us in terms of what's happening in your world, what some of the things that are coming up for us to make us aware of.
Hi. So, hi guys. Again, thank you for obviously for the community. Obviously, I do see the community growing, forward, becoming bigger, all that stuff. Forward. From my perspective, obviously, what I actually do is because I've been mining crypto, I've been investing and trading with crypto for quite some time. I do have basic knowledge. I think as much knowledge as what I possibly can right now have on crypto. And what I'm trying to actually achieve is I'm trying to help people in my community, people that I see with immense talents, to actually jump onto the Ravencoin community. As everybody knows, I mean, any form of Ravencoin that actually gets burned, is purely dedicated to growing the Ravencoin value, not only the value, but obviously the community involved with it. I mean, as soon as profits show up, and that's their pickup. So, at the end of the day, I try to help Human Arts, which everybody obviously knows are art. She designs the art and she draws it, and I sell it all for her. I do have a few 3D artists in the back end that also help me with a few things forward. But that's the biggest thing that I'm currently busy with. And when it comes to the Human Arts, we obviously have an agreement. So every single piece that I sell, a certain percentage of that of the art that I sell for Human Arts purely goes is dedicated to a project that I'm currently working on, obviously called RVNF Beats. Now, RVNF Beats is a radio station purely dedicated to promoting the NFT of things, and it's also there to for non-discrimination of coins, if that makes sense at all. It's a platform where we utilize everything from Raven coin through to Ethereum, through to anything, and actually open arms to say to anybody, use us as a promotional platform where you'll be able to put your music up wherever it may be, with a link of where people would be able to purchase your NFT, where RVNF Beats would not be, at all involved with the buying and the selling of music. Thus, we won't be able to dictate of whose music, what prices and all that stuff, everything goes for. So as soon as anybody loads up an NFT, you will be able to click on it, go to the buy now button, and everything will be, from there on out between the buyer and the seller. And the main reason, obviously, for me to broaden my spectrum with regards to not only Ravencoin, and I mean, everybody knows the Ravencoin community is something, that is immense, and I feel like it's like taking us back from 2008, where we are now. If I invested in Bitcoin in 2008, that's how I feel, and that's how I feel about the Ravencoin community going forward. But I do like to utilize the entire space where we would be able to, at the end of the day, be able to have multiple different platforms. As far as everybody knows, I mean, Solana, Ethereum, all those places are the places where everybody starts selling their stuff, and by utilizing something that allows everybody to come together as one, I think that is something that's going to go forward. So that's the biggest thing that I'm currently working on. And then with regards to taking it a step further, we have been speaking to a bunch of 3D artists with designing and developing of a Ravencoin Metaverse of our own, which would be dedicated purely for Raven or RVN Beats in itself, but also be able to have multiple people involved in the platform. So currently I have a print shop down in SA, also a print shop in Namibia, and we're printing for one of the biggest university holding companies in SA, who actually agreed upon being part of my Metaverse as soon as everything comes up. So where they would actually have a university based in the platform of things, where people will be able to study online. We're trying to build that, but the whole thing is obviously built for having a music theater where I will be able to have artists such as SOS and One Guy Games, multiple amazing artists coming forward to be able to perform at events, where I will be able to say, okay, cool, SOS, you putting in, or whoever artist, you're putting immense amount of effort in, you've got a massive community around you. Let me help you promote the music. Let's have an event in this space. This space would also have, would also be virtual reality, so you'll be able to choose between a virtual reality or third person, the way Verbella is. We'll have in-game credits the same way, which would be linked to the same amount of what Ravencoin is. Obviously, we're still busy with a bunch of stuff with regards to pricing and in-game currency and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, I would like to have a platform where someone would be able to go and buy a piece of land, build a property, and actually utilize that the same way they do in Verbella, to work from home. From vets, I currently have vets involved, where people will be able to give advice to say, oh, my dog is not feeling well. You'll be able to schedule sessions with an online vet with registration, certification and all that stuff. You'll be able to say, okay, cool, we will be able to assist you. And in order to get a session with the vet, we would be able to sell session times for that person on a marketplace, where you would be able to go and buy a session for a psychologist or a vet or a doctor or a lawyer advice or whatever the case be. Once that NFT has been purchased, you would actually get a token or a code, which you would then, a token and the email to the person that you are trying to get in touch with. You can email them and they can schedule a time for you. Once that time is 100%, no one else will be able to enter that room if you do not have a code. So you would be able to enter let's say for example, the vet's premises, and you'll be able to have brochures of what they're about and everything that the vet wants to showcase. But in order to actually go into the room where you would be able to have a one-on-one with a vet and actually have the time that you spend with them, you would need that code to enter. And that all happens, and that's what I'm trying to accomplish by allowing people to have the ability to work from home, but also use it as a space where you would be able to, have virtual property in a virtual building where you can accommodate people not only just in your country, but also internationally. And that is basically from a point of view where I wanted to just have a music theater, to rather me saying, let me just broaden this out and allow multiple people into it. So if you guys have any advice or any thoughts of something that you like me to add into it. Like I said, I already got pricing with regards to that, and a bunch of people working on that. So hopefully we'll be able to see that. Obviously, that also takes quite a while to actually build up. So we are looking at about 6 to 7 months to actually get a working platform up and running, as well as having exchanges and having RBN beats have actual tokens that is generated for the platforms and such. So yeah, that's what we're currently doing. And sorry for the long chat. Thanks, man.
That's good, Colin. Thank you for that. You've got a few things going on, right? That's good. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, we're trying.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Kun has also been kind enough to put up 2 pieces of art and also 1 piece of our RNF beats. So he's put up free and see the light art pieces, and there's also an RVNB beat CD. So I appreciate that. We'll just finish off with the artist, and then we can sort of go through the list of things that it gives, and again just making sure we all follow those conditions of to be able to win, so we can share the love to our friends and families and share in terms of what we're all doing. But yeah, follow those. There's on Twitter. There's the actions you got to do, and in terms of especially taking a screenshot of you at the beach here to share as part of those actions. Before I go to SOS, Morgan wasn't too sure whether she can make it, but Morgan, given that you're here, can you please just say in terms of what you're doing, what's coming up from you as an artist? Can you just quickly share, please?
Yeah, sure. I'm still working slowly on my RGB series. This will be limited to 25 different designs. And after that, I am going to start a new series. The same concept, but if you know the designer rules a little bit, you know that RGB stands for red, green, and blue. In designer's perspective, so I maybe hop on to the next one, which is CMYK, so I put my name. I am working on my dream catchers. My dream catchers is more a challenge for myself to start drawing in a different style, to discover other techniques of style of drawing and etc. And with actually 50 sold, I am going to start another 50. And in those 50, there will be the new techniques that I learned will be incorporated in those, and there will be more details, etc. And so I want to make the dream picture grow. As I am growing, so it's growing with me. And that's all what I'm working on right now for myself.
That's fantastic. That's great. Would you just, all your art's on Ravenist, right?
Yeah, for now they're all on Ravenist.
Yeah, fantastic. Go across to SOS. You want to sort of share SOS in terms of before we join you in terms of a few tunes? Can you just give us a bit of an overview in terms of you and as a music artist and your band? Probably just sort of connect the SOS to the band name as well. So for everybody who doesn't know SOS.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I mean, tough acts to follow there. I mean, I'm just so impressed with the community. It's so cool how I'm sitting here and everyone's going in different directions. You know, you're doing your thing, Rick, and LSJ, I love those. I didn't realize that was you, so it's really cool. Human, obviously, we've spoken, we've kind of worked together, and I didn't even know about the Metaverse thing, so the RBN beats, I love it, and Morgan, obviously, you and I are like besties now, I like to think. I love your art, and I just love talking to you, and it's really cool. Anyway, so thanks, everybody. Yeah, no, I'm Salsa Inside. I have a ton of pseudonyms. I release things under Salsa Inside. I release things a lot under Dictator and the Tops. I used to be Richard Tater, aka Dictator. And that's what a lot of my music that you're going to see probably over the next year is going to be from that band. That's kind of, I call it defunct. It's like an old project. It's all recorded. I'm going to release it slowly. I kind of build up videos around it. You're going to see I think a concept of that in a couple of minutes, maybe a video that you guys have seen before that kind of got a reworking. So I came to the blockchain really to get away from the old kind of world of like iTunes and Spotify and this and that. Really nothing personal against it. I just wanted to explore this space. So I randomly scooped up a Ravencoin main asset, and I released my first video, which was Rattle Bob, really funny. And I reached out to Ricky from RVNFT. I hope everyone knows Ricky. And I'm so glad that I did, because I was just like, you can't probably see my videos. I sit here alone in my little office and I make music with myself, and I have a great time. And all of a sudden I meet Ricky, and it's like, now I know all you guys and gals and people, and it's like, it's really cool to just engage with everyone, and we're doing cross work with other people, and collaboration. So it's been really great. That being said, you can find, I would say, a bulk of my work on rvnft.art. Ricky's been nice enough to, like, if you filter Sauce on Side, if you find any Sauce on Side piece and you click the little hyperlink for Sauce on Side, it'll actually show you all my other pseudonyms: Dictator in the Tops, Purple Helmeted Undercover Knights, PHUCK, you can do the math on that one. 88 Dynamite, it's another one. I do a lot of classical stuff under 88 Dynamite, which are the first 3 strings in the standard tuning of a guitar. 88 Dynamite, Goodbye Eddie would be the last ones. Anyway, yeah, so thanks for letting me kind of meet everybody and kind of get exposed to all of your art and share my stuff with you guys. It's been overwhelming, and it's like, it's just awesome. And I'm glad to be a part of it and to be able to play some tunes for you guys in a couple minutes here.
It's fantastic. Thanks, SOS. I keep calling you SOS. I know it's also on site, but just SOS stands out to me.
Yeah, it's funny. So when I first joined up, even, if I may, just for a second, everyone's been calling me SOS, and obviously that's the weird. It's like a GNU, GNU's not unit, Sauce on Side, SOS. So like, I get it. It's totally fine. I don't have a preference. In my head, it's Sauce on Side. It's actually, you guys, there's 13 people here. I can swear you all to secrecy. It's actually an old Howard Stern joke that I heard him say one day, just randomly. Like, yeah. So that's kind of what it's based on. But
Nice. That's great. I appreciate that. Also, again, in terms of what you're doing, SOS is actually a great blueprint for me to articulate some of the. I've got a couple of family members who are one in particular great musician, and I've actually used you as a case study to tell them that look what SOS has done. Is a pioneer in terms of music and the Raven community, and so for you, I'm using you as a blueprint to try to articulate to people that the pathway of NFTs, music NFTs. So you might even get a call up from one of the particular relatives. I was actually speaking to yesterday, and I was actually talking about you, and I think again, not to sort of digress, but I think look, I'm not a musician. I mean, I try to play the guitar, but I'm not nowhere near a musician. I couldn't even be embarrassed to even put me in the same sentence as a musician. But I guess in terms of this particular relative, I think as these guys are musicians, you're always looking for that perfect riff, perfect piece of music, and there's never it's never good enough. You're always challenging yourselves, and that's his mindset. He's like, but I want to do it, but I want to do it when I've got the perfect piece of music and perfect NFT to put out there. And I just said, there's never a perfect. You just got to put it out there and start the journey.
It's true. It's so true. First of all, please have them reach out. Feel free, and just to that point, it's 100% true. I'll be honest. Before I came back to this kind of community here, that's why I'm so thankful to you guys. I probably maybe mentioned this. Like, I hadn't listened to music in like 2 years before this. I just kind of fell out of it. Didn't care. Kind of not interested. And this has totally re-engaged me. And a big part of it is, again, sorry to circle back to your point, finally here, is it's kind of forcing myself to just do it. Just put it out there. Like, just record the stupid song and do it and put it out there, And if it's good, it's good. And if it's not, it's not. It is what it is. Luckily, I'm sitting on a treasure chest of pre-recorded songs. But believe me, in the past 4 weeks, I've recorded probably 3.5, call it, songs, and it's just unheard of. New energy. So you just got to just do it. You got to tell your cousin or your relative there. Just do it.
No, well, like I said, you are my blueprint to convince, to articulate, especially musicians. You just got to start. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Flattered.
I've actually, one of the gifts, I've actually bought some stuff yesterday. Actually, yesterday, I must share with you just quickly. Yesterday, obviously, for the ones that do enjoy tennis, we had the Australian Open here last night, Australia time. And Ash Barty won the ladies singles, and we also had our 2 boys. Well, it was actually an all-round doubles, men's doubles, all-round 4 players, Australians, and the special Ks as we call them. They also won the men's doubles. So while I'm watching the tennis last night, I think I went a bit crazy in terms of the buying pieces of NFTs, beautiful pieces on Ravenous last night. So. And I think, and I do apologize. Well, I apologise to you. Probably kept getting hammered with emails, Morgan, with my acquisitions, because she did send me a text. She sent a direct message to say thank you. But some beautiful pieces there on Ravenous platform, and also I've got some on the RV NFT as well, and some of yours SOS. But I'd like to make one available, in particular that Bat Cornbread 12 to share as a gift for somebody. Share that one. Yeah, that's
great.
great.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you really made my, like, all of a sudden I'm packing up and leaving from work yesterday, and I saw a bunch of Ravens hit my wallet. I got a message from Ricky, and you really made my day yesterday. Thank you.
Like that for me, like it's heartfelt when as I said, we're using the NFTs to support artists like yourselves, like Morgan, like Kuman, like LSJ and Indy. For us, it's so emotional that that every piece, it's not just about a buying piece, it's about there's a meaning to it, each piece that we buy. And when I go through it, there's actually a meaning why I'm buying it. And it's like, say for example, the White Swan standing tall by Indy. That for us, that was actually really to summarise where we are as a journey, and in terms of what we're doing as a Brick BC projects. And I love that piece again. As I said, when we do buy something, it comes with a meaning as to why we're buying it. And again, looking forward to continue to support you guys and building the community and supporting the community as more artists come along, and we can sort of get behind as well. But, without further ado, SOS, you guide us in terms of the tunes. Take us to your tunes, and we'll follow you.
All right, I'm going to turn off my microphone here. I'm going to kind of join you guys from the screen. There's a fun delay, so just, I'm going to be a little bit different. I might not be accessible, but I might switch back. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Come on in. Let's have a good time.
Let's go.